Live from Modine. Hey, guess what? It's time for the Israel Update with Hanok Young, Mike Clayton. If you don't know which one's which, stay tuned. You'll figure it out. He's the one that does the dancing and the singing and all of that kind of stuff. Okay. I'm just the serious side of this conversation. Right, Hanok?
Oh, let me play the world's smallest violin. No.
It was
Hi,
out of
everybody.
tune. You were out of tune when you did that.
Not terribly surprising. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good.
Let's start with some good news, because things going on in the world aren't such good news.
Yeah, really.
First of all, the rains keep coming and coming and coming. So out of morbid curiosity, remember, we had this horrific drought for most of the last 20 years. The last 2 years have been getting better. And then
Yeah.
Israel's got this red line, lower red line. It's like, well, guess what? As of right now, we are 2 feet and 2 inches. I converted it from metric on behalf of our listeners. 2 feet and 2 inches from the very top full to the brim of the Kinneret.
Wow.
I have never seen it in my lifetime.
Wow, that is amazing. But maybe there's even some hope of letting some of that water go down to the Kilt Sea and filling that
That's
thing back up a
right.
little bit.
So that's really good news.
Wow.
Next bit of good news, and of course we'll get into the whole Ukraine situation, because Israel is more enmeshed in it than ever before. Turkey now wants to cozy up. Turkey doesn't like us.
No.
Erdogan is a nutcase.
Yeah.
But he invited President Herzog there, and they want something. And, it's interesting, because so much of the world thinks that Israel has this incredible influence. It's like, if they can get Israel on their side, they'll get America, which we know is absurd.
Yeah.
Is absurd.
Yeah, right now that's totally absurd.
Okay. In Chizkiyahu's tunnel, Hezekiah's tunnel in the city of David, at the very end, as you're walking through, there's a replica of an inscription that was put there by the guys that were tunneling 2,800 years ago.
Yeah.
Why a replica? Because the original, once it was found, was spirited away to Istanbul, because the Ottoman Turks controlled the land of Israel.
Okay.
They've never displayed it. It's been stuck in the basement. Like, think of the Indiana Jones movie,
okay.
Like in a warehouse somewhere. Okay. And guess what? They said they're giving it back.
Really?
Yeah. It's amazing news.
Wow.
Amazing news.
So where will that be displayed, do you think?
Well, I can tell you for a fact it's not going to be in Modi'in.
Okay.
My guess will be the Israel Museum. That's where all the good stuff goes. And of course, how the inscription was found is a fascinating story. But for those of our listeners that want to hear it, y'all are just going to have to sign up for Connect to Israel and hear me do it on site. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Other good news. And this is funny, because I'll have to explain where you and I stand on this, Mike. Tonight is Purim.
Yes.
The feast of today is Tanit Esther, the fast of Esther. And tonight is all the rollicking joy of Purim. I'm not a rollicker, I'm not a joyer, and I'm certainly not one to get. I do have to say, because people, and it's funny, in the Orthodox community, where, like, of all the things to be like really serious about, like really like they have to hold to the letter of the law kind of thing, y'all would call it legalism. Not you, but some of our listeners might. Well, guess what? That's the idea of getting drunk on Purim. Since I've never been drunk on a regular day, I'm not going to get drunk on Purim. But I do have to share with you, back in my activist days in the 70s, a couple of friends and I had actually discussed the best way to commemorate Purim would be to go out, find anti-Semites, and beat them up. So this is how I wanted to spend my Purim. People dress in costumes. Okay, I don't really relate to Purim. We just spoke about it. You don't really relate to Purim, but it's just, it's like Hanukkah to me is a huge holiday, even though it's not a biblical
Yeah.
holiday, but as is Yom HaAtzmaut, our Independence Day. Purim just never really did it for me. But anyway,
Well,
so that's enough about.
I do have to share with you the best memory I have of Purim is I was in Israel. This was 2012, and I had just been up there with Hayavel, myself, Daniel, a couple of other guys. We had spent the time up there on Harbor Ka, the Mount of Blessing, and various other places pruning. And so, we had eaten, hummus, pita and hummus, pita and peanut butter, and peanut butter and jelly, hummus and peanut butter. I don't know what all we had, but it was the same thing, just in, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So when we got free of there, we were like, grabbing everything we could. Well, I took Daniel and Zach and Pete to one of my favorite restaurants that you and I still have to go to in Renana. It is
You mentioned that to me, yes.
The kosher meat restaurant. And these little bowls, the little bowls that they bring out all the salads and stuff. Yeah. They started bringing these out. I think it was like back then it was probably close to about $18 a plate, but it was like 500 plates that they bring. They started bringing the fries, and they brought the little lamb chops and the baby chicken stuff and all of these things. Let me tell you how much food there was on the table. I had two at the time teenagers who pushed back and said, "I can eat no more." Well, that happened, and I was sick. I had this head cold. It was really bad, but it was Purim. And here we are in Renana. You want a great experience, go to Renana on Purim, because all of the area children from the schools come in and they do a parade. And they had the town that does the bottled water. All the children dressed up as water bottles. And I have so many pictures of that day, and it was just incredible. But the best one was this guy had brought his horse for the parade, and he was riding his horse in the parade. Now, how do you get a horse back to your farm from the city of Renana if you don't have a horse trailer? Well, it's very simple. You drive down the road and in your car, and you have the passenger holding onto the bridle of the horse, onto the reins, and it follows you along as you're driving down the road.
A classic only in Israel moment.
Yes.
Now, of course, the people wear costumes, and the general reason given is that we hide ourselves in the same way that Hashem appears to be hidden in the story of it. Okay. But I saw something that I had never noticed before, that there's an opinion that said that the wearing of costumes and masks in particular is to commemorate all of the non-Jews in the Persian Empire that began posing as Jews when the Jews were winning and we were slaughtering our enemies. I had never heard that before.
Okay.
In any case, there's the perfect segue to the story in Ukraine, where people are posing as all kinds of things. Okay, let's state unequivocally, we both have said this, we've discussed this publicly, we've discussed this privately. What's going on is a tragedy. The human tragedy is horrific. Let's get to the Israel and/or Jewish specific elements. I've grown really tired of seeing Jewish organizations or Jewish individuals or Israel supporters on Facebook posting about the Ukraine has been the sort of fertile cradle for so many great Jews, so many Jewish personalities, so many leaders of Israel, etc., etc. There is not a section of European land more drenched with Jewish blood than Ukraine.
Wow.
Ukraine has been among the world's most anti-Semitic countries. In the 17th century, the founder of Ukraine, there are statues of him in Kiev, or Kiev, however you want to pronounce it, unless the Russians go and blow it up. Khmelnytsky, in a 10-year period of time, 1648 to 1658, slaughtered between 100 and 500,000 Jews.
Wow.
In horrific manner. I've got to tell you, I'd have to tell you this off air because we have kids that listen, in ways that would make the Nazis blush, of like, wow, you could be that cruel. So now, the current residents of Ukraine are not those people, and I feel for them.
Yeah.
However, there's a tremendous push in Israel among our leftists to open up our doors and allow an unlimited amount of Ukrainians in. And there's a socio-political reason behind it. It's to dilute the Jewish content of our country, to dilute the Orthodox Jewish content of our country, and to bring people, you know, it's interesting, the lengths that we're going through in Israel, we did not go through as quickly for Ethiopian Jewry.
True.
And our Minister of Immigration and Absorption, Pnina Tamano-Shata, who is a Dati Leumia, an Orthodox Jewish woman, came to Israel at age 3 with her family from Ethiopia. And she brought this up at a meeting. And, you know, there was a really, there's been, I wouldn't say rioting going on in the Knesset, but there's been very angry debate. Ayelet Shaked, our Minister of the Interior, is holding firm because we already have 20,000 Ukrainians who've overstayed their visas here in Israel. That's a lot of people for a tiny country. Now, there are Russian Jewish Olim. Again, Israel's law of return allows anyone with one Jewish grandparent, bizarre, to become an Israeli citizen.
Yeah.
But they're talking about if you have one relative in Israel already. So, and when 1 million people came from the former Soviet Union, close to 400,000 of them were not Jewish. There was a time I got on a train on a Sunday morning, you know, and all of our soldiers are coming back to their bases from their Shabbat leaves with their family. And 2 young guys and a young woman soldier get on in Tel Aviv. They were so blonde. If their grandfather had ever known a Jewish tailor, I would have been shocked. It was like Cossacks had gotten on. It was, so it's a big problem for us. It's a big issue. What's a bigger issue is that Zelensky, Ukraine's president, keeps inserting Israel in the middle of everything. He has insisted on addressing our Knesset via Zoom. Our Knesset's not in session, but as a special favor to him, they're going to get as many Knesset members on Zoom to be with him. He requested to speak to Yad Vashem. Why? That's our national Holocaust memorial.
Yeah.
Zelensky is tapping into Jewish guilt. He's playing his personal Jewish card. He also had a message to American Jews to stand with them. They keep positioning Putin as Hitler. Putin, meanwhile, says that the Russian troops are in Ukraine to get rid of the Nazis. So talk about wearing a costume for Purim. It's hard to know what's up and what's down. The insistence that Israel be the mediator between Russia and Ukraine, and that talks be held in Jerusalem, I have to tell you, no es bueno. This is not good for the Jews.
No.
It's only going to work out bad.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the possibilities of Ezekiel 38 in the midst of this, and I mean, and none of us, both of us are of the opinion. You look at prophecy, and you see what's happening. You go, okay, it looks like this is tracking. I'm not trying to say that this is the Ezekiel 38 war or anything, but the players, the players here. I want to go back to something. No, this thing of diluting the state, the nation of Israel, the state of Israel. Still, there's not, for many people, they don't understand the concept that Israel as a state was formed after the Shoah, the so-called Holocaust, for the survival of the Jewish people. This was not a religious thing. Okay, there is, again, there was prophetic significance there. We see Isaiah, we see, so many scriptures here. But this nation of Israel was formed for the preservation of the Jewish people. Now, you and I would see things, looking down the road, okay? But this thing of diluting.
Absolutely.
The people will come up to, will go crazy over the southern border of the United States, of how this is going to dilute the Republican Party or something. However, Israel needs to just let everybody in. You can't have it both ways. People can't have it both ways.
Not only that, remember that not too long ago, Ben and Jerry's had to get out of, they couldn't allow their ice cream to be sold in Judea and Samaria, the backbone of Israel. I have yet to see a thing saying, Ben and Jerry saying, we're no longer selling in Russia until Russia stops blowing apart. I mean, think about how bizarre this whole thing is.
Oh, yeah. And all these countries that are so-called closing up shop in Russia. Why is this? Is it for the moral backbone and all this of these companies? No, it's because their insurance is not valid anymore. Okay, that's the main reason. Here's another interesting parallel here, that Russia is now saying that they want Alaska and California, parts of California. Well, hey, if America is saying that Israel should give up Judea, Samaria, and Gaza, and the Golan Heights, and y'all should just go along with that because they have some right to it. Well, I mean, we kind of didn't pay a lot for Alaska in today's terms, so maybe we should be giving it back to them.
It's when you think about the crazy world in a logical manner, it seems even crazier. I mean, it really, the world is bizarre. How this is all going to end up, I really don't know. It's a horrific human tragedy. We only see part of it on the news. What it's going to take for Russia to pull out, I don't know. Meanwhile, an American general came out yesterday stating that Iran has 3,000 ballistic missiles, most of which are capable of hitting any spot in Israel. That has nothing to do with the 130 to 150,000 that their proxy in Lebanon has. That concerns me. Stopping ballistic missiles is really difficult. But everyone is distracted by the side. You know, it's funny. There is a sideshow, and if it's not one thing, it's the, what was the character's name? Emily Latella from the old Saturday Night Live.
Oh,
If it's not one thing, no, Rosanna Dana.
Rosanna Dana.
If it's not one thing, it's enough. And that's exactly what's going on. And, you know, as we're down to the last, literally the last few available seats for our Connect to Israel tour, which we haven't, like the world hasn't been able to have for 2 years, I still have people say, well, you know, I'm waiting to see what goes on in Ukraine. Why? What are you waiting for? Do you think Russian tanks are going to come rolling into Ariel? Don't worry about it. We're on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we do just have a few slots. We picked up 2 more, and you're going to love these guys. I met them this past weekend in Seneca. They came up to me and talked a little bit about the tour, and next thing I know, they had signed up, and
yeah.
they're our kind of peeps. Put it that way. They're going to be a blessing on the trip. And
no, we're gonna have a great time. There's major renovations going on in most of the popular sites in Jerusalem right now, which means that come the end of October, when our group lands, things will be all set. For those who've been even in the Western Wall tunnels, as you have many times, Mike, you will really enjoy this new view of things, seeing all different levels of things and a whole new story in effect.
wow.
Also, what's fascinating is with all the work that's been going on, only 5% of the area under the so-called Muslim quarter has been excavated. Only 5%. So, you know, as we keep doing that, so there are major renovations going on in the Davidson Center, southern steps of the Temple Mount.
Yeah.
You've got renovations going on literally all over the place. It's really kind of amazing. Even in Ir David, the city of David, lots of changes going on. Walking through all these places was great. Sadly, my favorite restaurant in the Jewish Quarter, the one you know, above the arches that looked out at the Mount of Olives, is closed. They're gone.
Oh.
You know, it's sad.
What have you seen anybody from the Korean restaurant there in the old city?
They have not reopened yet. I think their game plan, from what I had seen of a posting on Facebook, is that they hope to reopen at some point.
Okay.
I hope that point is the end of October.
Well, as long as there's iced coffee there at the shop there next to the Broadwall with Avikai, I'd be, you know, is he gone?
They're long gone.
Oh,
They're long gone. They were like an early COVID casualty.
well, yeah, but knowing those
you know,
guys, things turn around. They'll be back.
I certainly hope so. But I do have a new restaurant to take you to. We'll have to do that before the tour when you come on the pre-visit. It's a place called Mitzle. It's a grill, but you sit around the grill. It's
Okay.
not quite like Benihana. I mean, but it's really, it has a tremendous feel to it, and it's loud. It's Israeli. It's Mizrahi. You know, you got the Eyal Golan music blasting. But the food is great.
But I do have a surprise for you. This is good news. Yeah. It's my new one.
Well, I got to tell you, I think y'all should start doing messages, you, Barry, telling people you can want to go all you want, without that passport, they're not going to let you leave the
Yeah.
United States. It's, they're kind of funny about that.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that.
Yeah. Funny without a sense of humor.
Yeah, there's no sense of humor.
None. None. There's something about they must have some kind of course for border type people, those people that check passports. It doesn't matter what country you go to, they're all in a bad mood.
All in a bad mood. And what's interesting is on the US side, they're following a script and they're not even looking at you.
Oh no.
Not like the LL security that's, got you up and down and they're, and they say something like really outrageous just to see how you react.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Hey.
That's okay. Listen, so have you arranged yet for the specific charter directly from Franklin to, I mean, seriously, what is that? Half of our tour?
Yeah,
What,
well,
like
we're working on
area?
that. I need to put out an email regarding the tour. Probably the end of this week. I'll talk about. I'm not going to be booking things till probably about June. Though I have a couple of people that have already booked their flights. Actually, 4 that I think I know of that have already booked their flights because they're coming in a little bit early and maybe leaving a little bit late. So,
hey, as we say in Hebrew, it's all good.
there you go. There you go. All right. Well, enjoy. We'll talk to you next week.
Have a good Purim, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
Same bat time, same bat channel.